All right, let me take you all the way back to 2008 with the movie The Happening. Now, if you remember at this time period, this movie was all over the places. It has a generally fascinating name and concept. It stars the incredible Marky Mark in his early 2000s rise to fame. And it is a movie that encompassed the general zeitgeist of people's interest because of the film, The Happening. Well, what's happening? And this obvious apocalyptic movie. What is it about? What is all this? So it is a fairly interesting concept of a movie, and I'd love to talk about it. Now, like I said, the movie stars the always fantastic Marky Mark, and I'm a Mark Wahlberg absolute fanboy. He's almost a meme within a meme of himself, as he always plays Mark Wahlberg. Every movie he's in, he can't not be Mark Wahlberg. And this is a perfect example of how Mark Wahlberg is just Mark Wahlberg in this movie. Now, he's like a science teacher guy, but it always is the same with Mark Wahlberg. He kind of has a like standoffish nature. He struts his stuff, and he's got this puffed out chest, and he's ready to fight the world, even way back in the old days of 2008. So yeah, I mean he's just literally Mark Wahlberg in this movie, and yeah, it's you can really, really, really get a sense of what made Mark Wahlberg such a lovable actor by watching this movie, because he legitimately is just kind of a silly version of himself just put in this situation. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. If you haven't seen the movie yet, I don't know what to tell you, because yeah, it's a M. Night Shyamalan movie, and it has twists and turns. And here's a twist, but yeah, I mean, in essence, I'm gonna spoil it because yeah. So if you want to watch it, go watch it first. It has to do with like plants releasing a toxin, and the toxin causes people to like block the neurotransmissions. And I'm gonna be careful because I know YouTube is against these saying these kinds of things, but it like blocks the transmitters that stops people from like not self-preservating, or something along those lines. Essentially, they unalive themselves in pretty much the easiest way they could find around them. And it's a really, really, really fascinating concept, because it's like Mark Wahlberg says in the movie when he's talking to a kid in his class about how like nature is like forces of nature. Sometimes the best explanation is that we'll never really know the explanation. I mean, why does nature exist? Why does the universe exist? Why is there 100 million seagulls in every town? These questions just don't make a lot of sense. But like this movie, it just happens. It's the happening. Plants have like declared war on humans, almost quote unquote, and they're sending out this toxin that's causing a lot of gratuitous danger all around the world. Or I'm not even sure if it's all around the world, because you don't get a lot of like idea into like the actual like event itself. It almost looks like it shows like a map of like just the like never eastern side of the US seaboard. So yeah, I mean there's talks of where it happens and where the happening is happening, but at the end of the day it like yeah, it doesn't like it's not like the end of the world, because it stops at one point. And Mark Wahlberg figures out somewhere through the movie that like if it only attacks big groups of people, so if you like split off into a smaller goal, like yeah, like I mean if you're just an individual, like think about how many people just live on their own nowadays. Like it's not going to even affect you, right? It only like activates this toxin when it detects there's large groups of people, hence why it's happening in parks at the very beginning. But there's some famously gruesome unaliving iconography or imagery in this movie. Now, the most famous I remember was from a TV spot, which I think really, really drew a lot of people in on the original trailers for the movie, where there's a guy who literally like turns on the lawnmower and then just like lays down and lets it go over him. It's a pretty gruesome scene, and you actually get to see it play out in the movie pretty like in full detail. But I mean, there's some other pretty ridiculously gruesome scenes, including the beginning of the movie, which really makes you squirm when there's a lady and she gets to the toxin and she just takes a hairpin and just gucks herself. It's horrific to watch, and it really makes you squirm. So yeah, there's lots of that stuff. There's guys jumping off the side of things. John Leguizamo uses like a rock or a key to just unlive himself. And yeah, that brings me to the next point. Sir John Leguizamo is in this movie, and he is actually kind of just a guy. He actually kind of made me mad. He's just sad in the movie. He's like I don't know how to describe John Leguizamo, but in this, but like yeah, he's just John Leguizamo, and he's just kind of sad. He wanders around aimlessly. He always looked to Mark Wahlberg for the answers, and I think it's particularly charming that these two characters, linked up in this early movie because they're like buddies or something. But yeah, John Leguizamo is just sad in this movie, and his demise is even worse. There's a hilarious side plot where, like, I mean, in all this, Mark Wahlberg and Joey Deschanel or whatever that lady is they're married and they're going through like relationship problems, and basically Joey Deschanel cheats on Mark Wahlberg. I mean, she says she's like, we just went out for dinner, nothing happened. But I mean, like once you've already gotten to the point where you're going out for dinner with another man in a relation setting, it's like you've already cheated. Like she's heavily emotionally cheated on Mark Wahlberg. And so there's this whole side plot about like her basically like he's calling her, and she's like, don't stop calling me, it was just a one-time thing. But I mean, Zoe Deschanel has already like made the first steps towards cheating on Mark Wahlberg, and this whole thing is occurring during this apocalyptic event, and I think it's a hilarious side plot. And there's actually a even more hilarious part where Mark Wahlberg just straight up lies to her and is like, you know what? I was like talking to a really cute cashier at the thing. She's like, "Did you make that up?" And she's like, "I did." It's like it's just so Mark Wahlberg, and it's absolutely funny because there's zero chemistry between Mark Wahlberg and Zoe Deschanel. So like they're just like kind of there in a relationship during this whole thing. There's another really hilarious part where Mark Wahlberg, and you could tell in his face, like his face is unmistakable, but he starts talking to a plant and he thinks it's a real plant. He's like, "Look at me." And he's like, "I'm not gonna hurt you. Like, we're just here to, we're kumbaya." And he's like talking to his plant, and he goes up to it, touches it, and it's a plastic plant. And he's just like, "I'm talking to a plastic plant." Yeah. So it's kind of a funny movie, and like I said, this movie is interesting. Yes, there is interesting parts to the movie, and there is a lot of monochrome of creepiness when how plants could like be our worst enemy, despite them being seemingly like the most harmless things imaginable. So yeah, there's some creepiness stuff there, but yeah, like when you look at this movie, like later on, especially with Mark Wahlberg, who's almost a meme within a meme of himself, you realistically speaking, like this is kind of like a parody movie. It's just silly at parts, and Mark Wahlberg, you can't keep a straight face with Mark Wahlberg. You can't take the guy seriously, even because he takes himself so seriously. But yeah, it's a funny movie. So yeah, in wrapping up, it really starts to fall apart at the end. They like, they're crossing the countryside and you stop caring really. They're all alone and they go out to this farmhouse and there's this creepy old lady who's like, really 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 mean and weird and for some reason they don't just say, peace out, we're leaving and then just leave. But she turns into one of these like toxin infected people and is like coming after Mark Wahlberg. It's like the ending just sucks. You just don't give a crap anymore after that initial highs of the apocalyptic event and them escaping the countryside. It's hard to start caring and it really becomes just a slog and you just get through it and that's about it and that's the happening. So yeah, would you call The Happening a good movie? It's a movie. It is a movie. Um, but it's not like the greatest movie of all time. Not even close. It's like 6 to 7 out of 10 material. I can see how it could be 7 out of 10 at parts, but with its long ass ending and just some of the other goofiness of it's 6 out of 10 territory. So I mean 6.5 out of 10, almost perfect for this movie. It's just a movie, man. Like it's just a movie that we probably all forgot about. But I remember, like when I was younger, like this movie was everywhere because everybody was kind of fascinated. It's like, what's the happening? What is happening in the happening? What is happening? So it's a good, interesting movie to go back to, and I thoroughly enjoyed while we were watching it. I think it's actually also hilarious that the secret cameo of M. Night Shyamalan in the movie is the guy, is the guy calling Zooey Deschanel's character about sharing the tiramisu. So she's literally Zooey Deschanel, what even happened to Zooey Deschanel? She just disappeared off the face of the earth. But the person who is calling him and cheating on Mark Wahlberg is M. Night Shyamalan himself. What a twist! What an incredible twist. So yeah, I mean M Night Shyamalan, you always gotta love him. I wouldn't even say it's his greatest movie ever, but it certainly is interesting. I think the idea of Mark Wahlberg as like a science teacher uh, is just hilarious because he'd make a cool science teacher. Wouldn't Mark Wahlberg just be the coolest science teacher ever to have growing up? I would absolutely have loved it. So yeah. Anyways, watch The Happening. It's an M. Night Shyamalan classic, and it's a funny, weird, wackily movie. It's thoroughly 6 out of 10 material. Not a good movie at all, but for Mark Wahlberg's silliness and the wackiness of it, and how hilarious that kind of those side plots are, it's definitely worth a watch.